Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Sunday urged citizens to follow a spate of measures to conserve energy as the peace negotiations between US and Iran didn't yield any result, with President Donald Trump refusing to blink. Now, the direct impact of the war in West Asia on the people of India is surging crude oil prices. Although India has not passed the rising cost of petrol and diesel on the consumers yet, the cost of commercial LPG cylinders have been hiked twice in the last 2 months. So, what did the Prime Minister say? That's going to be very interesting. I'm going to quote him exactly what he said. He said, "It's time for us to use petrol, diesel, and gas with great care." Then he said, "We must make efforts to use only as much as is needed to save foreign currency and reduce the adverse effects of the war." And then he goes on to say, he makes 7 appeals, the big 7 appeals made by Prime Minister. Now, this is resulting out of the failure of Prime Minister Modi's policies. What are the 7 appeals he makes? He says, point number one, he says, prioritize work from home wherever possible. Then he goes on to say, avoid buying gold for 1 year. Don't buy gold. Even if you have a marriage, don't buy gold. That's what Prime Minister Modi says. Then he says, reduce petrol and diesel consumption, use metro or public transport. Next point, cut down the use of cooking oil. Avoid foreign travel for 1 year. Then he goes on to say, reduce dependence on chemical fertilizers and move towards the natural farming. Then the 7th appeal he makes is that use fewer foreign products and adopt Swadeshi. Now, these 7 appeals, many are saying they are bizarre. The 7 appeals made by Prime Minister Modi, are they bizarre? Do they make sense? Now, how is the government trying to explain these appeals? And the biggest reason which the government is giving out is that India's forex reserves are around 690.69 billion, according to the data which is compiled by Trading Economics. Now, RBI data shows reserves rising close to $728 billion in February before slipping back to around $691 billion in April as global uncertainty intensified. So the government says that save the forex reserves. Now, this is the explanation which the government is trying to give. Many would say that these austerity measures which Prime Minister Modi has appealed, would he stop flying? Would he stop going to the foreign destinations for his meetings? Would he direct his bureaucrats to be as austere as he wants the people of India to be? Will he direct his ministers not to go to the foreign destinations? And all the 7 appeals he has made, is he going to refrain? Now, it's a similar kind of a situation what everyone saw during the COVID times, appealing, then thali bajao, all that seems to be coming back. So I'm going to talk on this subject today, and joining me this evening is Sanjay Jha, former Congress spokesperson, political commentator and author, joins us this evening. Thank you so much, Sanjay. And Sanjay is basically a banker and he speaks a lot on economics as well. Thank you so much, Sanjay. And my first question to you is, how are these 7 appeals made by Prime Minister? Do they make any sense?
Well, I can tell you one thing for a fact, that for the first time, Mr. Modi seems to be acknowledging that India is facing a serious economic challenge. So far, the government has remained in denial. But you see, what is worrying about Mr. Modi's government, and principally himself, is the fact that they are extremely immoral when it comes to actually transparent politics. Why did Mr. Modi have to wait for the end of the assembly election results to be able to talk about austerity measures? Go back, Neelu, to the fact that when the campaigning ended for the assembly elections in West Bengal, that's the time when the government announced an increase in the price of LPG commercial cylinders by rupees 993. And even in domestic LPG cylinders, the price went up. On bulk diesel, the price went up by rupees 149. So it clearly tells you that the government likes to practice what I call is a sleight of hand politics, keep the people in the dark, and suddenly spring a surprise on them. Now, let's go back to what Mr. Modi has said today. Okay, he's telling people cut down on consumption, basically of oil and related commodities, and lead a life of austerity. Here is the fundamental point. The war has been on since February end, right? We all know that. Everybody knows that India and the government should know that we are the third largest importer of petroleum products in the world. 60% of our LPG consumption is imported, and 90% of them comes through the Strait of Hormuz. So the question that Mr. Modi needs to answer to the people of India, you see, this is the thing that we need to change in our narrative. Mr. Modi wants India to respond during COVID, during lockdowns, and now during a serious economic challenge without telling us what is he doing for the people of this country. He wants the people of this country to rise up and support the government without explaining that the people are worse off because of the government's policies. Fundamental question that should not be ignored, Nilu. Why did Mr. Modi's
No, but when
government?
you say, Sanjay, but when you say that government's policy has failed miserably, but this is packaged as some kind of a patriotism, some kind of a
Oh yeah,
deshbhakti, that look, this
yeah,
is what is making the country stronger, and therefore all the citizens need to follow this. He's reminding the people of their duty now.
yeah. But let me tell you, this is the way authoritarian demagogues work all over the world. Pass the buck on to you, and then make you feel you're doing this big sacrifice because of the country. Everything is about inducing this feeling of nationalism. And therefore, if anybody questions Mr. Modi, Bhaiya, aap to deshdrohi ban gaye hain. By the time our program is over, people will be saying Neelu Vyas is a anti-national. Sanjay Jha is a fifth columnist working with foreign conspirators to destabilize India. What can you do? This is the way this government works. Now, will Mr. Modi answer to the people of this country, why did you side with Israel and America when you should have actually been either neutral or definitely been a lot more charitable towards Iran than you were? Because one of the reasons why India has suffered more than many other countries on account of the West Asia war is because Iran began to look at us with suspicion, although they have been more benevolent towards us than one had expected them to be. Here is the fundamental point. Can Mr. Modi's government tell the people of India what is your strategic LPG reserves? Basic question, right? Any country runs on reserves. Just like how you and I will have a certain bank balance for the rainy day. What if tomorrow you can't access, you don't have a job, or there is some kind of a financial emergency? What is your cash balance? Do the people of India know, and can Mr. Modi's government tell us all why is the strategic LPG reserves down to just 2 days of national consumption? Can you imagine that, Nilu? I mean, India doesn't have reserves for LPG at all. And one other question that comes up, why is it done when the campaigning for the elections are over? When I can promise you that the maximum choppers, airlines, jeeps, cars, motorcycles, money has been spent by the BJP, which is the richest
Absolutely.
political party in India. Mr.
But
Modi's
this
own travel.
Right. No, this point which you mentioned that he was waiting for the elections to get over. You remember during the budget session, Prime Minister Modi inside the House said that we should be prepared for a COVID-like situation. Now, what bigger proof
Hmm,
does the country need to show that he already knew what was coming, but the government
hmm.
deliberately kept quiet for a few months. Once elections are over, now this seven appeals.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why he must be an extremely worried man on foreign exchange. Shall I tell you? Mr. Modi has stopped talking about the 5 trillion economy because he realizes that 5 trillion is in US dollars. And the US dollar rate is so bad that India is barely reaching 4 trillion. The 5 trillion you will not reach even by 2029, 30. The way India is growing, impossible. Impossible. Therefore, now he's under panic. He's under panic because the foreign exchange rate is going against India. And tomorrow, if the RBI stops intervening in the foreign exchange market, the rupee will actually be even worse off. It will really be devaluing itself or depreciating at a much more rapid rate. So here is the problem. The problem for Mr. Modi at the moment is that he's seeing an economy which is flat. I can tell you that we'll be lucky if we reach grow at 6%, which is nothing for a country of our gigantic size. You look at the rupees at what, 95.24 against the dollar. Today, the stock market has reacted very negatively to Mr. Modi's cautionary advisory or whatever, because certain sectors are going to take a big hit. And here is the question, that end of day, Mr. Modi's government has no real answers for how can you protect the common man. You see, any government should care for the common man. Now, he's telling people don't spend or be careful or be cautious. Here is a problem, and I'll tell you, Neely, this is what we should be worried about. The rural India, the rural demand is anyway struggling. You have 800 million people who are surviving on free food grains. You have roughly 300 million people living below the poverty line. Now they're going to get knocked off on account of rationing. Their household balances are anyway crippling. Jobs have vanished. Jobs are not there anymore, no matter what spin the government does. So, end of day, Mr. Modi should realize your problem is not to tell people to spend less. Your challenge right now is to give money in the hands of people so that they
Absolutely.
can actually spend, so that India sees a boost in demand and therefore will be able to actually find investments which will increase opportunities for everybody in the demographic dividend story. But this government works only on one criteria: keep the deficit low, keep the foreign investors happy, because now the foreign investors are taking their money out of the country. Have you
Yeah.
seen the extent of money that has gone out of India? It's a record outflow from India. So you're witnessing a government in a serious crisis. So Mr. Modi has spun this off on nationalism, on patriotism, to make every Indian feel like you got to help us through this crisis, without telling you and me that if anybody is responsible for the absence of jobs, for the slow investment, for the struggle in rural demand, for a GDP that is barely, over the last 7 years, has grown by 5.5%. End of day, if India's foreign exchange reserves are depleting, then the problem is on account of the failure of an incompetent government in the last 12 years.
And I'm reminded of Mr. Hardeep Puri, who just 2 months before, or rather 1.5 months, till about 1.5 months ago, he was saying there's no energy crisis. Now, was he living in oblivion, or Prime Minister Modi is now talking, which is just the opposite? We don't know. But do you think that these seven appeals are nothing but a new drama or a theatrics in the name of patriotism and Deshbhakti? Seven appeals are packaged as some kind of a new Deshbhakti.
Well, let me tell you, this government does not know the ABC of running a country's economy. On governance, I would rate Mr. Modi's government at 1 on 10, and I'm being extremely charitable. As far as the economy is concerned, I can tell you, you look at the key parameters, Nilo. GDP growth over the last 7 years has been 5.5%. 5.5%. The UPA's was 7.8%. And if you go by what Arvind Subramaniam said, was chief economic advisor to the Modi government, even this 5.5% looks like a higher number. It could be lower, which is why we always keep asking, where are the jobs? You see, if India really had a booming economy, we would be having jobs despite the threat of AI. Now, with AI becoming a serious challenge, you will see a massive disruption, even especially amongst the educated and the, even the postgraduates in engineering or even arts and the humanities. So India is going to see a destruction of the demographic dividend story. Don't forget, Nilu, that even as we talk, India is not seeing the kind of investment that is needed to take the economy forward. What happened to that big manufacturing story? It's not happening. India is basically, even in the area of tech AI, you're talking about creating data centers. these are going to make India bleed in terms of its economic, shall we say, resources, because you will be taking away India's natural resources to just service the big tech
Absolutely.
giants in the United States. So I think the question that comes up is Mr. Modi's government has relied extensively on a few big names to keep the Indian economy going. India is not South Korea. India is not Vietnam. India is not Philippines. It's a big country. We are the most populated country in the world. It can't survive on the Adani Ambani model. It needs multiple, even Tatas, etc. India needs multiple entrepreneurs. India needs truly unicorns that are established or startups that get a chance to succeed. In India, there is lip service given to them, and to a large extent over dependence on the crony capitalists is hurting India's growth story. Take it from me, the Adani Ambani model is not the model to take India forward, which is why we are once again in a crisis. Mr.
Right.
Modi is making us feel like the scapegoat.